There's a joke that gets repeated so often it almost sounds like fact that women don't masturbate. But that joke has never been true. What is true is that the conversation around female sexuality has been buried under decades of silence, shame, and social conditioning that told women their pleasure wasn't something worth discussing, let alone celebrating. And when something completely natural gets treated like a secret, it doesn't disappear. It just creates guilt where there should be none, and confusion where there could be clarity. So today, we're going to have the conversation that should have been happening all along. We're going to talk about what actually happens inside a woman's body and mind during masturbation, physically, neurologically, and emotionally, and why understanding this matters far more than most people realize. My name is Dr. Eva Danielle. I'm an intimacy expert and sexual health educator, and every week I share content here designed to help people build a healthier, more honest relationship with their own sexuality. If that's the kind of education you've been looking for, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss anything. Let's start with the brain, because what happens neurologically during female orgasm is genuinely remarkable, and most people have absolutely no idea. A landmark study from Rutgers University used brain imaging to track what happens in a woman's brain during sexual arousal and orgasm, and the findings were extraordinary. Up to 30 different regions of the brain become activated simultaneously. 30. That includes the insula, which is responsible for interpreting full-body sensations, meaning the brain is mapping pleasure across the entire body, not just the genitals. It includes the limbic system, which governs emotion and memory, and the hypothalamus, which regulates hormones. The whole system lights up at once. This is one reason why so many women describe orgasm not as a localized sensation, but as a full-body, almost immersive experience. The brain isn't just registering pleasure. It's orchestrating it across multiple systems at the same time. And here's something that might be the most fascinating part of all of this. During orgasm, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-monitoring, overthinking, judgment, and social anxiety, temporarily shuts down. Not slows down, shuts down. For a brief window, the internal critic goes quiet. The mental noise stops. That's why so many women describe the moments during and after orgasm as feeling completely free, deeply present, or emotionally unburdened in a way that's hard to achieve any other way. Compare this to men, where brain activity during orgasm tends to be more contained and less expansive. Female sexual response, neurologically speaking, is a whole brain event. And that matters, not just for pleasure, but for mental health. Because here's what that neurological reality means in practical terms. Masturbation triggers the release of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins all at once. Dopamine reinforces feelings of reward and motivation. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, creates warmth and emotional connection. Serotonin stabilizes mood. Endorphins are the body's natural painkillers and stress relievers. This is why so many women report using solo pleasure not just for physical release, but as a genuine tool for managing anxiety, improving sleep, and lifting their mood. This isn't a placebo. This is neurochemistry. The mental health benefits of regular orgasm are documented, and they're significant. Now, let's talk about what the actual experience of female arousal looks like, because one of the most pervasive myths out there is that masturbation is always quick, always intense, and always goal-oriented. For many women, that couldn't be further from reality. Researchers studying female arousal patterns consistently describe it as a slow build rather than a sudden spike. It's layered. It's rhythmic. It often involves waves, moments of rising intensity, followed by softer phases, followed by more intensity again. It's not a straight line from start to finish. This natural, cyclical quality of female arousal is actually deeply connected to the nervous system. Women's bodies often need more time to fully transition out of the sympathetic state, that fight or flight, stress-activated mode, and into the parasympathetic state, which is where deep arousal and pleasure live. This is partly why stress and mental distraction are such common barriers to female orgasm. The body genuinely cannot experience deep pleasure when it still feels like it needs to be on guard. This is also why creating a safe, relaxed environment, physically and emotionally, is so much more critical for women's arousal than it tends to be for men. And importantly, for many women, the goal isn't even orgasm. Sometimes the experience is about the sensations themselves, about stress relief, about feeling present in the body after a day that felt entirely lived in the head. Some women describe solo pleasure as grounding, even meditative, a way of coming back to themselves. This is completely valid and completely normal. The diversity of female sexual experience is not a problem to solve. It's the reality of what women's sexuality actually looks like when it's allowed to exist without pressure or judgment. One of the most important things research on this topic has revealed is that women who explore their own pleasure tend to report significantly higher sexual satisfaction overall, and not because solo pleasure replaces a partner, but because it builds something that no partner can give you: self-knowledge. Many women grow up with very limited, very incomplete information about their own anatomy. They may not fully understand what the clitoris is or how it functions. They may never have been taught that the majority of women require direct clitoral stimulation to orgasm, not penetration alone. They may carry years of internalized messaging that their pleasure is secondary, complicated, or somehow too much. Solo exploration dismantles those myths one by one. It replaces vague discomfort with genuine knowledge, and that knowledge translates directly into more confidence, more comfort, and more authentic communication with partners. Knowing what feels good and being able to say so is one of the most powerful things a woman can bring into her intimate relationships. It removes the guesswork. It creates space for real connection instead of performed compliance. And it shifts the dynamic from hoping your partner figures it out to actually being able to guide the experience toward mutual satisfaction. Now, one question that comes up regularly is whether it's possible to masturbate too much. And the honest answer is, like any behavior, it only becomes a concern when it starts to interfere with your daily life, your relationships, or your emotional well-being. For most women, that threshold is never reached. Research specifically focused on negative effects of female masturbation is actually quite limited, which itself says something. What has been noted is that some women who rely heavily on high-intensity external stimulation over long periods may notice temporary changes in sensitivity. Temporary, not permanent. The body adapts and recalibrates. Some women also notice that orgasms in the days leading up to their period can intensify certain PMS symptoms, likely due to the hormonal fluctuations happening in that phase of the cycle. This varies widely from person to person and isn't a reason to avoid pleasure. It's just information worth having. The most important thing is simply to listen to your body. Pay attention to how you feel, not just physically, but emotionally. Solo pleasure should feel like something that adds to your sense of well-being, not something that creates shame, compulsion, or disconnection. That internal compass is your most reliable guide. What all of this comes down to is something that should have been said loudly and clearly a long time ago. Female masturbation is normal. It is healthy. It is documented in science. It is practiced by women across every culture, every age group, every background. And the silence that has surrounded it has not protected women. It has only left them without information they deserve to have. When we talk about this openly, something powerful happens. The shame starts to lose its grip. Women begin to see their bodies as worthy of attention and care. They develop a relationship with their own sexuality that isn't dependent on external validation. They feel more confident, more grounded, and more at home in themselves. And that ripples outward into every relationship they have. I'm Dr. Eva Danielle, and if this video gave you something to think about, I'd really love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Should conversations like this be happening more openly? Do you think the stigma around female sexuality is changing? Your perspective matters. Share this with someone who could use this kind of honest, shame-free education, and subscribe for more content that treats your sexual health with the seriousness and respect it deserves. Next week, we're going to explore the science of desire, specifically why women's libido fluctuates and what you can actually do about it. That's a conversation you won't want to miss.